We are live. What's up, my friends? Abby here. Welcome to another Write With Me live stream. I'm so glad you're able to join me today. I know this one is a little bit earlier than we usually do these live streams, but it's okay because that gives other time zones the opportunity to show up and write with me today. So if you're here live, I'm so glad you are. If you're watching the replay, that's awesome too. Type in the chat, tell me if you can see me and hear me okay. Make sure that my mic and my camera are working well. And we're going to get into this. So how the way these writing sessions work, if you're new here, you've never done this before, welcome. We are going to do 3 writing sprints, 25 minutes on, 5-minute breaks in between to chat about our books and just kind of hang out, discuss what we're writing. I'll answer some of your questions that come up in the chat. And yeah, it's a super fun, just chill writing experience that we can all hang out as a community and get some writing done together. So everyone can see me and hear me. Awesome. Fantastic. Tell me where you're tuning in from as well. Where are you in the world? I'd love to know. And what are you working on? What is your current work in progress? And what are you working on today? I am going to be working on my nonfiction book, which I have been writing since the start of the year. And I'm really excited because I've made quite a bit of progress on it this week, and I really like how it's turning out. I can't wait to share it with you guys. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be writing today. Let's see. Writers from all over the world tuning in. Awesome. London, Scotland, Australia, India, Portugal, Chicago. So cool. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, I'm so glad you're here with me today to write and just immerse ourselves in creativity. It's so special, such a wonderful experience. So I'm glad I get to share it with you. Okay, I'm going to set up my timer on my iPad here so that you all can see how much time we have left in each sprint. And feel free to set your own timer if you desire. I'm also going to set a sprint in Discord. So if you are not part of the Discord community, you can get access to the Discord community by joining my Patreon. The link is in the description box below this live stream. Check that out. When you join the Patreon at any level, you get access to the Discord. And the Discord is pretty cool because that's where this whole community of writers hangs out all the time, every day. There are writing sprints happening there all the time, as well as brainstorming sessions, writers sharing their work. It's just a super fun environment. So if you are into this whole community aspect and you want to experience this every day with your writing to motivate you to keep going, definitely check out the Discord. Okay, so I'm going to go over there real quick and just start a writing sprint, unless there's one already going. I don't think there is. So I'm going to go ahead and sprint 25 minutes. And if you're over in the Discord, feel free to join there. I'm going to join there. I have not written anything yet today, so I'm starting from scratch. Okay, who's ready to start writing? I am so ready. I have a nice fresh cup of Earl Grey tea here. So hopefully you have something yummy to drink. And let's get into our first sprint. I'm going to set this timer. I'm also going to set an alarm to signal the end of our sprint here. Okay, let's go. Good luck, everyone. And that concludes sprint number 1. Great job, guys. Tell me how it went in the chat. Hopefully you had a good writing sprint. I had a good first sprint to get this started. Kind of still trying to clean up some of the work that I've already done with this book. So it's a process of writing new stuff and rewriting some stuff I've already written, reworking it. So it's an interesting process, but it's kind of nice because I can really just get into it and just go into a state of flow. So it's been good. But tell me in the chat how it's going for you with your work in progress. And we're going to take a quick break here. I'm going to chat with you guys, answer a few questions, and then we'll get into our second sprint. Let's see, I got a super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat from Lena Carver. Hey, Abby, I have a difficult time organizing and keeping track of my storyline because I write with pen and paper. Any tips for organizing chaos? That's a great question. And I think it's so cool that you write with pen and paper because it really helps the ideas to flow. Like I find that my brainstorming process feels totally different when I'm writing with pen and paper versus typing on a computer. What I personally do, because I do a lot of note taking by hand, what I usually do is I just kind of brain dump my thoughts into a notebook. And then when it comes time to organize them, I will dictate because it's so much easier than typing over what you wrote. I will just turn on dictation on my Scrivener or my computer, and I will just read what I wrote. And then I will take those chunks from my notebook and organize them into like bins where they belong. So in my Scrivener, I like to organize things based on, different folders for world building, character development, developing the outline, etc. So at that point, I will just take those chunks from my notebook and start to sort them into bins. And then from there, you can just get as much more organized as you want to, or leave it a little bit more free and vague. But that's just my process. That works really well for me. Scrivener is a must-have for organization if you don't use it already. Let's see. Albert asks, how to adapt the 3-act story structure to write a first-person point of view story. What are your tips? What to do and what not to do? So I use the 3-act story structure all the time to write first person. I love writing first person perspective. It's my favorite perspective. So yeah, you can use it basically the same way you would to write a third person story. It's really all about when you go to write that first draft, you are writing in first person versus third. Now, that being said, you will be writing in like deep point of view because you're writing in first person. So if you are outlining with the 3-act structure, you're going to want to just focus the most on what your main character, the point of view character, is dealing with internally, what they're feeling. You don't want to deviate into the side characters and what they're going to go do by themselves. They can still have conflict that you're showing through the main character's point of view, but everything happens through that one character's point of view because you're in deep first person perspective. So the side characters can still have conflict, obviously they should, but we're not going to deviate and go off with them by themselves because we're in this perspective. So just something to keep in mind while you're outlining. Let's see. Kayla asks, how do you get excited for your story again? I took a break and I don't know how I feel right now. That's definitely relatable. I think what can get me excited about my story again is to just go back and read some of what I've already written and like re-immerse myself in the characters. And sometimes like aesthetic boards and music can help influence this as well. Also, like watching content or reading content that is in a similar genre or has a similar flavor and vibe to it, that really gets me excited to write a story again. I don't know why that is, but like if I watch something like a movie or a TV show that is a very similar vibe to the story that I'm writing, it like switches that light back on in my brain and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm in the mood for this again. So that's another little, I guess, writing hack that I use sometimes. Let's see. Another super chat came in. I'm going to answer this quick and then get into our next sprint. Dragon Keeper Alley asks, do all my characters need a climax in book one if I'm doing a series? No, definitely not. I would say focus on the most important characters in that book. So maybe it's one or two, maybe three. It's hard to even like think about three characters sometimes having like this ultimate aha moment, pivotal moment. And again, if you're doing a series, they don't have to reach their ultimate aha moment in the first book. They should have a character arc of some kind and come to some sort of realization so that they are ending the story in a different place emotionally than they started the story. But they can still have a lot to learn, is what I'm trying to say. Like, they can still have many more aha moments to come throughout this series. And don't worry too much about the side characters, because if you're going to take them into these following books, you have plenty of time to bring them on journeys as well. But what you're trying to do with this first book is really make your readers empathize with and care about and root for the main character or the two main characters, whatever you're working with. But try to focus on those two most important characters, because we will come along for the ride with the other characters as well and fall in love with them as the series goes on. Hopefully that helps. Okay, let's get into our next sprint, and then I will answer some more questions at the next break. So I'm going to restart my timer. I totally forgot to log my words in Discord. But I wasn't really able to count them because I'm all over the place as I'm writing this. So maybe I won't join the Discord sprint this time. But feel free to do that if you're in Discord. And if you're not in Discord, anybody who's looking for the link, it's through my Patreon. So when you join my Patreon, which is linked below this live stream, at any level, you will get access to the Discord if you are interested in joining over there. Okay, let's get into this next sprint. Set this timer, and good luck. sprint number 2 is done. Great job, guys. Hopefully that sprint was a productive one. Type in the chat, tell me how it went. I saw a few super chats go by as I was on that sprint, so I'm going to call those out right now. Thank you so much. First from Miss Gracia. I just have to say how nice it is to wake up on Wednesday morning to a surprise write with you. It makes me so productive. Yay! I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for the super chat. And another one from, probably going to mispronounce your name, so I apologize in advance. Anjana. Hi, Abby. Your videos inspire me so much. I'm writing a book about 3 sisters. One of them is my main character. Should I write the book from each sister's point of view or from only my main character? That's a really good question. I think, it really depends on what you want to do with your book and what you feel personally drawn towards, because I think either method could be great. If you want to focus mostly on one sister, then it might be good just to stay in her point of view. But if you want to be sort of passing around this perspective between these 3 sisters and you get to see each of their story in a different way, then switching point of view could be really fun to do as well. So it really depends on your story and what you have in mind for the plot. Another option, probably might not have considered this, but another option is to do a series where each sister gets their own book. That's another way to sort of switch point of view without having to commit to switching point of view for the whole book between those 3 sisters. Could be more of a series where you can read each one as a standalone, but they mean more if you read them together. So that's another option there. But really it depends on what you personally love. I personally love switching point of view. I don't like being confined to just one point of view. I always like writing a book better when I am able to switch between multiple characters. So yeah, just noticing what you personally love, what you feel drawn towards, and then doing that, because that will help you to stay motivated. Writing It Right asks, how do you keep writing when you just feel stuck with a project? That's a really good question. When I feel stuck with a project, what I like to do is pivot to a different project so that it doesn't feel like I'm stuck here and I can't write anything and I can't, move forward. Maybe if you're stuck with one project, it's good to set that aside for a few minutes or for a few days or a few weeks even and work on something else. It doesn't mean you have to stop your progress altogether. I find that it's really helpful to work on a different project, even if I'm just editing something else or outlining something else, so that I'm keeping those creative juices flowing, and maybe I just need a break with that other story, that other project that needs to be put on hold for a little bit. And keeping that momentum going of your creativity, I find really helps to just keep those mental muscles strong, I guess, and to not, put too much pressure on yourself to keep going with the project that you feel stuck on. Let's see. Carmen asks, how should 2 people writing a book together keep consistency between their different styles? Should it matter at all? That's a great question. It really depends on what style you're writing the book in. So if you have 2 very different voices between you and this other person you're writing with, that can actually be a huge benefit if you are switching point of view and you're going back and forth between 2 different characters, or maybe you have 2 characters, they have 2 characters, or they have 2, you have 1, whatever the case may be. I'm currently co-writing a series with my sister, and we're doing it just like this, where she has 1 character's point of view. Actually, she has 2 characters, but mostly 1. I have 2 characters that I'm writing as well. And so we get to switch back and forth, but the voice is different, and it's a good thing because it feels like you're going into a different character's point of view. So that can be a really good thing, depending on what type of book you're writing. Now, if you're writing a book that's all from one perspective, then yes, you're going to notice a marked difference between those 2 writers when you switch back and forth. So just find a way to use it to your advantage. That's what I'd say. Find a way to use it to your advantage rather than trying to conform to like one style, because it's best to, you know, have your own style and really lean into that if you can. Let's see. Renee Ross asks, would the rules of the three-act story structures desire, fear, and misbelief be altered in any way if the story doesn't have a happy ending? That's also a really good question. So if the story doesn't have a happy ending, what's probably happening is like a negative character arc. Now, I have a couple videos on my channel about negative character arcs. I would highly recommend checking those out. If you go to YouTube, type in Abby Emmons negative character arc, they will pop right up. It's 2 parts. So in the first part, I go over what the negative character arc is and different types of it. And then the second video is a case study comparing 2 different story examples. But what happens with a negative character arc is that instead of your character going on a journey of positive change, they go on a journey of negative change. So as they go throughout the story, they're accepting more and more of their lie, which leads them to this tragic end moment. And usually that has, it doesn't have a happy ending because your character is ultimately destroyed by their lie. Literally destroyed, like they actually die, or they are just mentally, emotionally destroyed by their lie. Either way, you may have some characters who turn out they have a happy ending, but maybe the main characters don't. So there's so many different complexities to play with here. There's no one size fits all way to do this, but the same rules of the 3-act story structure apply as far as the story beats go. So as far as having an inciting incident in the beginning, an impossible choice your characters have to face, and then your midpoint of a active character going into pursuing this goal, some sort of plot twist or game-changing midpoint happening at the midpoint of the story, and then changing our direction based on what happened at the game-changing midpoint, and then building up to some sort of climax where they have to face their greatest fear, but maybe they succumb to their fear, maybe they succumb to their lie, and then they have this tragic end. So there's so many different ways to do this, so many different ways to play with this, that I don't want to say there's like, this is the only way to do it. So check out the negative character arc video, because I think that will give you some inspiration, help you to see some different story examples of this as well. Okay, I'm going to do one more super chat, and then we're going to get into our next sprint. Sila1721 asks, can I ask if you've heard of / would support a story that goes from best friends to enemies to lovers? It's a fantasy adventure. That is awesome. I love best friends to enemies to lovers. I actually wrote a story back in last fall that was best friends to enemies to lovers. Well, they were like friends in the past, and then they ended up being enemies, and then ended up falling in love. And I love that progression. It's so layered and complex and beautiful. Chef's kiss. So yes, I would definitely recommend that. Go with that if that's how you feel called to write this story. You want to go with that. That character relationship progression can be really juicy and wonderful because you have history with these characters, right? You have the past of they were best friends, now they're enemies, and they're going to fall in love. Such an emotional roller coaster ride. I love it. So yeah, go for it. Sounds awesome. And thank you for the super chat. Okay, let's get into our third and final writing sprint. I'm going to set my timer again. I'll set up another sprint in the Discord, so you can feel free to join over there if you wish. And let's get into our last sprint. Finish strong, guys. You're doing awesome. Great job, guys. That was the timer for our final sprint. Excellent work. You guys are amazing. Tell me how it went in the chat. Hopefully you had a good session and a good final sprint to close off this session. I got a lot done actually on this chapter. I'm so happy with it. Yeah, very cool. I can't even say how many words I wrote because, like I said, I was jumping back and forth between different chapters, adding a bit here and a bit there, and writing examples. So yeah, there's a lot of plates to spin with the writing process of this nonfiction, but I'm really, really excited with how it's turning out and very excited to share it with you guys. And thank you so much for your patience and your support while I write this book. I'm so grateful for that. Awesome. Looks like you guys had an amazing session. So cool. One more super chat came in. Thank you so much from Callum. Asked, hi, should the external conflict matter to the main character? Yes, absolutely. The external conflict should matter to the main character, and it's really fun to find ways to make it matter to the main character based on their internal conflict. And one of the questions I like to ask myself that helps me to brainstorm this is, based on this character and who they are and what they're dealing with emotionally, internally, what is the most challenging thing that could happen to them that would push them outside their comfort zone based on their fear and misbelief? If you have that, your imagination will just start running wild with possibilities. And there can be so many different ways that the external conflict pushes your main character outside their comfort zone and forces them to challenge their fears and face their fears and overcome their misbeliefs. And yes, all of it should tie together. It should all matter to the main character. So as long as you're doing that, you're on the right track. Can I get a happy birthday message from you for yesterday before you go? I've gone from 105 to 111 pages. Congratulations. I'm going to mispronounce your username, but I think it's CICJOSE. So I'm not going to even try to pronounce it because I don't know how to pronounce it. But happy birthday. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. And I see you on the live streams all the time. So thank you so much for being a supporter of this channel. I really appreciate it. And I hope you had a wonderful birthday. And I'm so glad you could join us today. Awesome. So yes, that is the last sprint today. Thank you so much for joining me today and joining the community as we wrote together. I'm so glad that you could be here for this live stream. And if you have any other follow-up questions about your story, feel free to shoot me an email at abby@abbyemmonsauthor.com. You can always send me an email there or join my Patreon and send me a DM. I see my Patreon DMs more often because I'm in there more often. So if you want to join the Patreon and the Discord, the link for that is below this video. Check that out if you want this community writing aspect every day in your life, motivating you to keep going and keep pursuing your author dreams. Thank you so much to everyone who gave super chats today. I so appreciate it and I value your support. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you at the next Write With Me live stream. Until then, best of luck with your writing projects, and as always, rock on.